Okay, let's get started. Primitive hunting, equipment, and techniques. So we're going to talk about muzzleloading and archery. So the first thing we start off with is know your muzzleloader. So on the slides, know your muzzleloader. If you want to learn about that, you have a book. If you want to learn about that, you have a book. Okay? So really, even these PowerPoint from Gamefish really needs to be updated. So that is not a very common, that's not, I don't know how to say that. If you're buying a muzzleloader, don't buy one of those. Got it? So if you don't have a muzzleloader already and you're looking to buy one, you need to buy one that looks like page 41. Your muzzleloader there? Yeah. What's it look like?
It's like a cross between a musket and a rifle.
Sure. So that is a break action muzzleloader. Those are much easier to clean, much easier to take care of, and all that kind of stuff. Afternoon, Justin. Thank you, sir. So we're on page 41, Justin.
Yes, sir.
The flintlock, and I mean, if you want to go back and do something like this, that's cool, that's fine. You can hunt with that, it's legal to hunt with that. In Arkansas, you can use a flintlock, you can use percussion cap. But I will tell you, on page 41, that's the kind of muzzleloader, if I was going out to buy, that's what I'd buy. The one I own looks almost just like that. That one right there, that's a CBA brand. I have one that's CBA, looks just like it. Okay?
What caliber is yours?
Huh?
What caliber?
It's a 50 caliber. Yeah. If I had my preferences, I would shoot a 45 caliber. Smaller bullet, a little bit more accurate. That's what I would shoot. 50 caliber is the most common muzzleloader. Some of the best muzzleloaders out there, they're not producing anymore. It was made by Savage, and it was not a black powder muzzleloader. It was a smokeless powder. So you put like true rifle powder in it. They quit producing them because people were not following instructions. Imagine that. We don't teach students to follow instructions, and then they grow up and become adults. So they were pouring too much rifle powder in it, and they were turning them into bombs. Like they're accidentally pouring 100 grains of rifle powder into the muzzleloader, put a bullet in there, and they pulled the trigger, and kaboom, it just blew up, killed them, or severely injured them. Because 100 grains of rifle powder, smokeless powder, is so much more potent than 100 grains of black powder. Okay? Like a 30-06 cartridge, only has 36 grains of rifle powder. So they're putting 100. So it's blowing the guns up. But they're the most accurate, and you don't have to clean them very often. They're the best. My wife's grandpa has one. Okay? But what we need to know on this, look at the muzzleloader. It's very similar to a break-action rifle or shotgun. You have a recoil pad, you have a butt, stock, you have a grip, you have trigger guard, trigger, you have a forearm, you have a ramrod. The ramrod pulls out and will go down the barrel to pack in the bullet on top of the powder. You have adjustable sights or a scope, and you have a hammer with a striker. Okay? Let's talk about the bullets and the powder you see on page 41. You see Pydex pellets. I would recommend using Pydex pellets or other types of pellets that's pre-measured, and all you do is just drop the pellets in there. You can buy loose black powder, but you have to measure that each time. And what if you're a few grains off? Like if you weren't measuring exactly the same each time, what would happen?
It'd be off. Your shot would be off.
It would be off. You might have too much. You would shoot higher. You don't have enough powder. You'd shoot low. So the pellets, to me, are better because it's pre-measured. Okay. For me, I shoot 777 pellets. It's a little bit hotter of a black powder. I put 3 pellets in mine because it's a Magnum 50 caliber, and then I put a conical bullet in there that's saveted. The saveted bullet has a plastic jacket around it, and I shoot three pellets with 150 grains of 777 powder, and I will shoot a 250 grain Thompson Center bullet with a plastic jacket, and I use 777 209 primer. So a muzzleloader is what the word is. You load it from the muzzle. So you drop your powder in there, you put your bullet, and you pack it all the way down to the breech. Okay? And then you open it up, and when you get ready to hunt, you can put a primer on the nipple. Okay? Close it, and when you get ready to shoot, you pull the hammer back, squeeze the trigger, the hammer hits the striker, it hits the firing pin, then hits the primer, and then it ignites your powder. Okay? Muzzleloaders you have to clean very often. Like, to be accurate, every other shot you need to clean the muzzleloader, which gets old. I've got a muzzleloader at home, I shot it yesterday, I'm having to clean it. I thought it was going to be sighted in, it wasn't. So I cleaned it, and we'll shoot it again this afternoon. So every 3 shots, I clean my muzzleloader. Black powder, black powder is super corrosive, so it'll rust your gun up. That's the reason muzzleloaders you will find, you can't buy new break-action muzzleloaders with wooden stocks, because you have to clean it so often, it would wear the finish off that wooden stock. Most of the stocks are synthetic or plastic. What we need to highlight on page 41 is, it's kind of hard to find, it's the third square down, third sentence. Okay? It says, don't use modern-day smokeless powders and black powder firearms. And that's right there. Okay? And we'll watch, in a second, we'll watch a YouTube video from CVA, Connecticut Valley Arms, on smokeless powder and malfunctions with muzzleloaders. Okay? Always check and see if your muzzleloader is loaded or unloaded. Because some people may leave their muzzleloader loaded for a while, and then one of the common mistakes that can be made is when you get ready to go hunt with it, you load it again. So at that point you have it double charged. So whenever your muzzleloader is empty, I like to make a mark on my ramrod to know that if I run the ramrod in there and it goes that distance, it's empty. I also like to load it and then make a mark on my ramrod to show that it's loaded. So all I do is drop it in there and then I can see if it's loaded or not. Always remove your ramrod before you shoot. I know a guy did that twice in one day. He said it kicked like a mule.
He left the ramrod?
Yeah. He's a very smart guy, like super intelligent. But I don't know what happened. He did that same thing twice in one day.
He kicked like a mule, he still did.
Yeah, like he pulled the trigger and he, man, that thing really kicked him. He looked at the target and the target was just like splattered with all kinds of stuff.
I've
Like,
never
what in the world? And he went back to load his muzzleloader. He's like, huh, my ramrod's gone. He's like, oh, and it hit again. Alright.
What was he wearing? Did he blow up?
Yeah, he just, when it flying through the air, it just exploded.
So yeah,
Yeah, you go another ramrod. A very common practice is after you oil your muzzleloader to dry fire it, so you just take a primer only and hold it off to a safe distance and then shoot it and it just snap that primer. I mean, it'll burn all that oil out of it. And I heard a guy one time that he did that, but instead he just put his ramrod in there. Oh, that'd be funny. And he shot it. Well, that primer is a small explosion. He shot the ramrod like way off into the darkness and they never found it. Yeah. So other comical muzzleloader stuff I've run into, I had a cousin that smoked. So 209 primers are somewhat large, okay? 209 is the same primer a shotgun shell uses, okay? The primers that we used before that were number 11 percussion caps, which were pretty much the same primers they used all the way back to the Civil War. Well, they're small, okay, and they're hollow. Well, my cousin, he had put some in his pocket where he kept his lighter, and he walked up to the cabin door, and I'm just 5 or 6 feet from him, and I was sitting on the couch in the cabin. He walked up, the door was open, and he was rolling a cigarette. So he had a cigarette up here. He took his lighter, and when he flicked that big lighter, it would go boom, because it sparked, and that gas with that primer explosion, and it blew up the end of a cigarette. It was like a cartoon. He did that twice that weekend. It was hilarious. Alright, so, flipping on. I told you I loaded muzzle. We're going to watch a video from Calgary on how to do that. Okay. Moving on to bows and arrows. You can see, let's go. You have long bows, recurve bows. Recurve hunting is becoming even more popular today. And then probably the most common type of bow will be the compound. Okay, the difference. Probably so. A compound, the advantage of a compound is with a recurve or a long bow. When you pull that bow back, the farther you pull back, the more weight you're holding. Okay, it never releases. With a compound, you're pulling back, and it increases. And when those cams roll, okay, it's called a let off, and then you're only holding 20% of the weight. So you can shoot with a stiffer draw weight. That's what I was trying to say. Stiffer draw weight. They'll shoot faster and they'll shoot more accurate. Okay. You can put sights on them. You can put all kinds of accessories on a compound bow. So, compound bow. Don't ever work on a bow yourself. There's bow shops around. D&W in this area has a good bow shop. There's a great bow shop at Lepanto that you can use that will string your bow, will help you adjust the bow, and that kind of stuff. If you have a long bow or a recurve, you need to, if you're storing them for very long, you need to take the strings off. Okay? That allows the limbs to go back straight and doesn't make your limbs weak. Okay, so limbs, grip, string, docking point, pretty much the same. Never dry fire a bow. Okay, so never pull a bow back and just let it go without an arrow. If you do it a couple times, it'll weaken the limbs, and then suddenly you do that and let go, and then the whole thing explodes. Extremely dangerous. Right? Accessories. You look on page 44. The most common accessory for a compound bow is a mechanical release. It goes around your wrist of your strong hand. So if you're right-handed, it'll be your right hand dominant hand, and it's just almost like a trigger. And that knocks at your knocking point. When you pull that back, when you get ready to shoot, you just tap that release, and it'll release the string. Okay. Parts arrow. You have an arrowhead. You have the shaft, the fletching, and the knock. Okay? Two fletching will be the same color, and those are called the hens, and then the one that's opposite color or a different color will be called the cock feather. Okay? When you're shooting a bow, your hen feathers will be towards the bow, and the cock feather will be pointed out. Yes, Justin?
Why do they have feathers on bows? Is it to help wherever goes in areas to help keep it on target?
So they have fletching on arrows to stabilize the flight of the arrow. And it's crazy, like whenever you watch an arrow fly in slow motion, it like wraps around the bow, and as it goes through the air, it's not stationary and straight, it wiggles as it goes. Okay? You always need an arrow the correct length of your draw length. So my draw length will be a lot longer than some of yours. Okay? My arms are longer. So if I used your bow, or if I had or used your arrows, if I take a short arrow and I pull back, and the arrow's too short, it could come off my wrist and then be dancing out here. If I let go, it could go into my arm. Okay? If your arrow's too long, it would be too heavy and it would not be accurate.
Because they have a long one that's short.
It would, have one that's a little too long than one that's a little too short. Yes. Types of arrowheads. You have bullet points, blunt points, field points, judo points, fish points, and then broadheads. You have fixed blade and mechanical broadheads.
Which one do you use? Is it judo point?
The judo point, you see it on page 46, it has springs on it. So like a judo point, you would use that if you were shooting like small game. Okay? Very effective in killing small game. And it also allows you to find your arrow better. So one of the problems if you shoot arrows outside, especially if you're shooting one with a bullet point or a field point, and you miss your target, or if you don't have a good backstop, it'll go right under the leaves. And you won't find your arrow. Or like if you shot out here in the yard around the school, or in your yard at home in turf, it'll go right under the grass and just skim right under the grass, and you won't find it. It just disappears. The judo point, when it hits, it'll bounce up, and then the arrow will be laying on top of whatever litter or whatever the forest floor is. The fish point, it has barbs that won't allow the arrow to come out, because most time if you're bow fishing, you have a string attached to the arrow. I bow fish, it's a lot of fun. I recommend if you want to do something that's fun, if you don't like firearms, if you like fishing and the challenge of bow hunting, bow fishing is awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, a couple days ago, I lost an arrow tip. I was shooting a bow and I was seriously target practicing on the shoot, and I missed the target, hit the back wall, and I picked up the arrow and I looked, I was like, because the tip was completely gone. I looked everywhere and I couldn't find where it even landed.
So you just need to practice, like when you're practicing, you need to practice with bullet points. Do all your practice with bullet points, and then right before you get ready to go hunting, you can practice with your broadhead. So there's fixed blade and there's mechanical broadheads. The advantage of mechanical broadhead is it has a smaller flight path, so it's not as big a diameter when it's flying, but whenever it hits a target, it will expand. One of the disadvantages is if it fails, it's mechanical, it could fail. If it doesn't open up, then it wouldn't cut as big of a hole. It wouldn't be as effective in taking an as a fixed blade would be. All right. Crossbows. Yes. Huh? You can use it for small game as well. So, crossbows. Many states have laws that limit the use of crossbows. We don't in Arkansas, luckily. So, in Arkansas, you can shoot a crossbow anytime during bow season. Crossbows have come a long ways. They're a lot safer now. They're much more effective. They're much smaller. You have to be careful though. When you hold a crossbow, don't stick your thumb up on this thumb, because your thumb is in the strings. And in fact, that string is moving fast enough with enough momentum, it'll cut your thumb off, or it'll peel all the hide off your thumb. Okay. Crossbows as well. Do not dry fire them because they can weaken the spring or weaken the limbs. Crossbow bolts are different than arrows. They look very similar, they're shorter, and that's the main difference. They're just shorter. Crossbow arrows are called bolts. Crossbow bolts. Well, I have a crossbow. The thing with crossbow, most of the time your effective range is not as far. Like I will only shoot 25 yards with my crossbow. There's some crossbows, the new Ravens out there, but they cost you $2,500 to buy one. They can shoot out to 100 yards. They're very accurate, very nice, very small. So whenever they're at full draw, the width of them is only like this wide. Like my crossbow is like this wide, which is kind of a pain. But hey, I got mine for free and I didn't spend $2,500.
How'd you get it for free?
Lost grandpa, bought a new one. I got his old one. And at 25 yards, I can Robin Hood an arrow at 25 yards for a bow. Like I can stack them and split them. I try not to do that because the arrow's like $5 a piece. Okay, we're gonna watch a video on how to knock an arrow and draw the bow. But I will tell you there's two ways of bow shooting. One is by using bow sights, and the other one is by instinctive aiming. Okay, most compounds you're gonna be doing with bow sights. If you see here on page 49, longbows and recurves, you can put some sights on recurves, but most times it's instinctive aiming. It's just wherever you think to aim. It just takes a lot of practice. You could. Yep. One safety tip: if you're shooting a recurve or a longbow, it would be a good idea for you to have a wrist or a forearm guard, like you see on page 48. Let's see, is that anywhere else? It's also on page 44, an arm guard that will go right here to keep you from burning your arm with the string. Because if you roll your wrist out too much, that string's gonna come right down your arm and just graze you and peel the hide off. Okay? So, but it won't take you very long to learn. Don't roll my wrist. Keep my wrist straight like this, and it won't hit your forearm. Let's watch some videos.